The crystal chandelier cast dancing shadows across the marble floor as Natasha Williams adjusted the silver serving tray in her hands. Her black catering uniform felt stiff against her skin, but the job paid well enough to cover Amelia's daycare for another month. She moved between the wealthy guests at the annual Children's Hope Foundation gala, invisible among the designer gowns and tailored suits. That's when she saw him. Jonathan Reed stood near the auction display, his tall frame commanding attention even in a room full of powerful people. The tech billionaire's dark hair was perfectly styled, his navy suit probably worth more than Natasha made in 6 months. She remembered when that same face was younger, softer, gazing at her with promises of forever under the oak tree behind their high school. 15 years. It had been 15 years since he'd chosen his future over theirs. A waiter approached Jonathan from behind, carrying a single glass of champagne on a small tray. Something about the man's movement caught Natasha's attention. His grip on the glass was too tight, his smile too forced. She watched as he navigated through the crowd with unusual determination, his eyes fixed solely on Jonathan. The waiter's hand trembled slightly as he lifted the champagne. In that split second, Natasha noticed the almost invisible residue around the rim of the glass, a faint powder that shouldn't have been there. Her heart hammered against her ribs. Without thinking, she lunged forward, her serving tray clattering to the floor as she knocked the poisoned champagne from the waiter's grasp. The crystal glass shattered against the marble, sending sharp fragments flying. One shard sliced across her palm, drawing blood that dripped onto her white gloves. "What are you doing?" Jonathan spun around, his green eyes wide with surprise. The waiter's mask of composure cracked. His face twisted with rage as he realized his plan had failed. "You stupid woman," he snarled, reaching inside his jacket. "Security!" Natasha shouted, cradling her bleeding hand against her chest. Chaos erupted around them. Guests screamed and scattered as security personnel rushed toward the scene. The false waiter shoved through the crowd, desperate to escape. In the confusion of running footsteps and shouting voices, he melted away into the panicked mass of people. Jonathan caught Natasha's shoulders as she swayed slightly, her face pale from shock and blood loss. "Are you all right? Why did you do that?" She looked up into his familiar face, seeing recognition flicker in his eyes. For a moment, time stopped. They were 18 again, sitting by the lake, planning a future that would never come to pass. "The glass," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the commotion. "It was poisoned. I could see the residue." His eyes widened as understanding dawned. "You saved my life." Before she could respond, paramedics pushed through the crowd. "Ma'am, we need to look at that hand. Have you ever wondered what you would do if you witnessed someone about to be murdered? Would you risk everything to save a stranger's life, even if that stranger had once broken your heart? Drop a comment below and let me know what you think Natasha should do next. Don't forget to subscribe for the next chapter of this incredible story." The paramedic wrapped Natasha's hand in white gauze, his movements quick and efficient. Around them, police officers interviewed witnesses while forensics experts collected fragments of the shattered champagne glass. The grand ballroom had transformed from elegant party venue to crime scene in a matter of minutes. "You'll need stitches for the deeper cuts," the paramedic told her. "We should get you to a hospital." "I can't." Natasha glanced at the clock on the ballroom wall. "I have to pick up my daughter from daycare in 2 hours. Can you just bandage it tight?" Jonathan stood nearby, watching the police dust the remaining champagne glasses for fingerprints. Every few seconds, his gaze drifted back to her, confusion and something else, something deeper written across his features. "Miss," Detective Rodriguez approached with his notepad ready. "I need to get your statement about what happened." Natasha quickly recounted the events, describing the waiter's suspicious behavior and the powder residue she'd noticed on the glass rim. The detective scribbled notes, nodding thoughtfully. "You have excellent observation skills. Without your intervention, Mr. Reed would likely be dead right now." He handed her a business card. "We'll need you to come to the station tomorrow to look at some photos, see if you can identify the suspect." "Of course." She tucked the card into her apron pocket. Jonathan stepped forward. "Detective, I'd like to cover all her medical expenses and—" "That's not necessary," Natasha interrupted, her voice sharp. She couldn't accept his charity, not after everything that had happened between them. "But you saved my life. Please let me." I said no. She stood abruptly, ignoring the throbbing pain in her bandaged hand. "I need to go." She turned away from his startled expression, weaving through the lingering crowd toward the kitchen exit. The other catering staff were packing up equipment, their voices hushed as they discussed the evening's dramatic events. "Natasha, wait." Jonathan's voice called after her. She didn't turn around. In the kitchen, she grabbed her purse from her locker and stripped off her blood-stained apron. The white fabric bore dark red stains where she'd pressed her injured hand against it. "You're leaving already?" Camila, her supervisor, appeared at her elbow. "The police might have more questions." "I gave them my contact information." Natasha pulled on her worn denim jacket. "I have to get Amelia." She slipped out the service entrance into the cool evening air. The alley behind the hotel was quiet, a stark contrast to the chaos inside. Her old Honda Civic sat under a flickering streetlight, its paint faded but engine reliable. As she drove through the city streets toward the daycare center, her hands shook on the steering wheel. Seeing Jonathan again after all these years had reopened wounds she'd thought were healed. The boy who'd promised to love her forever, who'd held her close and whispered dreams of their future together, had become a stranger in an expensive suit. But for one moment, when he'd caught her shoulders as she swayed from blood loss, she'd seen something familiar in his eyes. The same warmth that had made her believe in fairy tales when she was 17. She pulled into the daycare parking lot and took a deep breath. Amelia would want to hear about her day, would ask why her hand was bandaged. How could she explain that she'd saved the life of the father her daughter had never known? Inside the bright yellow building, 6-year-old Amelia Williams sat at a small table, carefully coloring a picture of a castle. Her dark curls bounced as she looked up, and her smile could have lit up the entire room. "Mommy, you're early." She jumped up and ran into Natasha's arms. "Look what I made for you." The drawing showed 2 stick figures holding hands in front of the castle. One had long dark hair like Natasha's, the other was smaller with bouncing curls. "It's beautiful, baby." Natasha kissed the top of her daughter's head, breathing in the scent of strawberry shampoo and childhood innocence. "Who's the prince in the castle?" Amelia asked, pointing to a third figure barely visible in one of the windows. Natasha's breath caught. "What prince?" "Every castle has a prince, Mommy. He's just waiting for the right time to come out." As they gathered Amelia's backpack and art supplies, Natasha couldn't shake the feeling that tonight had changed everything. Jonathan Reed was no longer just a painful memory from her past. He was flesh and blood, standing in the same city, breathing the same air. And somewhere in the shadows, someone wanted him dead. 3 days after the gala, 6-year-old Amelia Williams pressed her nose against the huge glass windows of Reed Industries' downtown office building. The lobby stretched up toward the ceiling like a cathedral, all marble and steel and sparkling lights. "Wow," she whispered, her breath fogging the glass. She'd been waiting in the coffee shop across the street while her mommy went to a job interview at the insurance company next door. But the lady with the mean face had told her to wait outside because children weren't allowed inside. The busy sidewalk scared her with all the rushing people and loud cars, so she'd wandered toward the pretty building with the big windows. The revolving door spun slowly as important-looking people in dark suits came and went. Amelia watched, fascinated. She'd never seen a door that moved by itself. A security guard noticed her standing alone and approached with a concerned expression. "Hey there, little one. Where are your parents?" "My mommy's at a meeting." Amelia pointed vaguely toward the other buildings. "She told me to wait, but the mean lady said I had to leave." The guard, a kind-faced woman named Officer Torres, knelt down to Amelia's eye level. "You can't wait out here by yourself, sweetheart. It's not safe. Let's go inside where it's warm." The lobby was even more amazing from the inside. Amelia's eyes widened as she took in the fountain in the center, the waterfall wall, and the elevator doors that gleamed like mirrors. People clicked across the marble floor in their shiny shoes, all looking very serious and important. "What's your name, honey?" Officer Torres asked, leading her to the security desk. "Amelia Grace Williams. I'm 6¾ years old." "That's a beautiful name. Do you know your mommy's phone number?" Amelia recited the digits proudly. She'd learned them in kindergarten, along with her address and the alphabet song. Officer Torres dialed the number, but it went straight to voicemail. "She must be in her meeting. Don't worry, we'll figure this out." The elevator dinged and several people stepped out. Among them was a tall man with dark hair and kind green eyes. He wore a navy suit that looked expensive, and everyone seemed to step aside when he walked past. Amelia stared at him. Something about his face seemed familiar, like a character from a story she'd heard but couldn't quite remember. The man noticed her sitting at the security desk and paused. "Is everything all right, Officer Torres?" "Mr. Reed, we have a little visitor who got separated from her mother. I'm trying to reach her mom now." Jonathan Reed crouched down so he was at Amelia's height. His smile was warm and genuine. "Hi there. I'm Jonathan. What's your name?" "Amelia." She studied his face carefully. "Are you the boss of this whole building?" He laughed, a sound that made her want to smile too. "I suppose I am. What do you think of it?" "It's like a castle, but prettier." She gestured toward the fountain. "Castles don't usually have water inside." "You're absolutely right. Would you like me to show you around while we wait for your mom?" Officer Torres nodded her approval. She's been fascinated by everything since she walked in. Jonathan extended his hand to Amelia, who took it without hesitation. His fingers were warm and strong, making her feel safe. They walked toward the elevator together. "What floor would you like to see?" he asked. "The very top one. I want to see the whole city." The elevator whisked them up 42 floors in seconds. Amelia's ears popped and she giggled. That was like flying. Jonathan's office took up the entire top floor, with windows on all sides offering a panoramic view of the city. Amelia ran from window to window, pressing her face against the glass and pointing out landmarks she recognized. "There's the park where Mommy takes me to feed the ducks." She pointed east. "And there's my school." She moved to the south window. "I can see everything from up here. It's pretty amazing, isn't it?" Jonathan sat on the edge of his desk, watching her explore. "Do you live in the city?" "We live in the blue apartment building near the library. Mommy reads to me every night before bed. She does all the different voices for the characters." "What's your favorite story?" "The one about the princess who saves the prince instead of the other way around." Amelia spun around, her curls bouncing. "Mommy says girls can be heroes too." Something flickered across Jonathan's face, too quick for Amelia to understand. "Your mommy sounds very smart." "She is. She works really hard to take care of me. Sometimes she's tired, but she always has time for hugs and bedtime stories." Jonathan's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and then at Amelia. "Your mom is on her way up. She's very worried about you." "Am I in trouble?" Amelia's bottom lip trembled slightly. "No, sweetie. She's just scared because she loves you and wants to keep you safe." The elevator dinged and Amelia heard rapid footsteps in the hallway. "Amelia? Amelia, where are you?" "Mommy, I'm here." She ran toward the voice. Natasha Williams burst through the office doors, her hair slightly disheveled, her face pale with worry. She scooped Amelia into her arms, holding her tight. "Baby, you scared me so much. I told you to wait by the coffee shop. The mean lady made me leave and I saw the pretty building, and the nice guard lady brought me inside, and Mr. Jonathan showed me the whole city from up here." Natasha's eyes lifted over Amelia's head and met Jonathan's gaze across the room. The recognition was instant and electric, the same shock that had passed between them 3 nights earlier in the chaos of the charity gala. Time seemed to freeze as they stared at each other. 15 years of separation collapsed into a single moment. Natasha's arms tightened around Amelia as the full weight of the situation hit her. Jonathan Reed, the man whose life she'd saved just 3 days ago, the boy who'd abandoned her when she needed him most, was standing 10 feet away with her daughter's small hand still in his. "Mommy, are you okay? You look funny." Amelia wriggled in her mother's embrace, looking between them with curious eyes. "I'm fine, baby." Natasha's voice came out strained. She set Amelia down but kept a protective hand on her shoulder. "We should go." "I'm sorry she bothered you, Mr. Reed." "She wasn't a bother at all." Jonathan's voice was careful, controlled. "In fact, she's delightful company. Very bright for her age." Amelia beamed at the compliment. "Mr. Jonathan showed me the whole city, Mommy. You can see our apartment building from here." "That was very kind of him." Natasha's words were polite but distant. "Say thank you and then we need to leave." "Thank you for showing me your castle, Mr. Jonathan." Jonathan crouched down to Amelia's level again, his smile genuine despite the tension radiating from her mother. "It was my pleasure, Amelia. Maybe you can visit again sometime." "Can we, Mommy? Please?" "We'll see." The response was automatic, the same thing Natasha said when she couldn't afford something or when the answer was no but she didn't want to disappoint her daughter immediately. They moved toward the elevator, Amelia chattering about the fountain in the lobby and the waterfall wall. But as the doors opened, Jonathan spoke again. "Natasha." She paused, her shoulders stiffening at the sound of her name. She hadn't heard him say it in 15 years. "Could I speak with you for a moment? Privately?" She glanced down at Amelia, who was pushing the elevator buttons with fascination. "Amelia, go down to the lobby with Officer Torres. Tell her I'll be right there." "But Mommy?" "Go ahead, sweetheart. I need to talk to Mr. Jonathan about grown-up stuff." After Amelia reluctantly stepped into the elevator, Natasha turned back to Jonathan. The silence stretched between them, heavy with years of unspoken words and unresolved pain. "I didn't know you were still in the city," he said finally. "I never left." Her voice carried an edge of bitterness. Someone had to stay and deal with reality. The words hit him like a physical blow. "Natasha, don't." She held up her bandaged hand. "Whatever you're about to say, don't. That was a lifetime ago." "But it wasn't, was it?" "Not really." He stepped closer, and she noticed the fine lines around his eyes, the way his shoulders had broadened. He was a man now, not the 18-year-old who'd kissed her goodbye at the bus station. "3 days ago, you saved my life without even knowing who I was. I would have done the same for anyone. Would you?" His green eyes searched her face. "Or was there a part of you that recognized me?" The question hung in the air between them. Natasha wrapped her arms around herself, suddenly feeling exposed under his gaze. "It doesn't matter now," she said. "What happened at the gala was instinct, nothing more. I saw danger and reacted. End of story." "Is it?" He moved closer still. "Because I haven't been able to stop thinking about it. About you. After all these years, you're the one who—" "Stop." Her voice was sharp. "Just stop. You made your choice 15 years ago. You chose your scholarship, your bright future, your new life. You don't get to waltz back in now and pretend any of this matters. You think I don't know what I gave up?" His composure cracked slightly. "You think I don't remember what we had? If you remembered, you would have come back." The words escaped before she could stop them, raw with old pain. "You would have called, written, something. Instead, you disappeared completely. I thought it was better that way. Cleaner. I thought you'd move on, find someone who could give you the life you deserved. I did move on." She straightened her shoulders. "I built a life, raised my daughter, made my own way. I didn't need you then, and I don't need you now." The elevator dinged in the hallway. Through the glass walls, they could see Amelia's face pressed against the elevator doors, looking for her mother. "She's beautiful," Jonathan said softly, watching the little girl. "She has your eyes." "Yes, she does." Natasha's voice was firm. "She's my daughter. Mine alone." Something flickered across his face, too quick to interpret. "How old is she?" 6. The answer came without hesitation, but Natasha saw him doing the math in his head. 6 years old. 15 years since he'd left, minus 9 months. "Natasha. I have to go." She moved toward the elevator quickly. "Thank you for taking care of her today, but we won't be back." "Wait please. I want to help." "The job interview, was it for the insurance company downstairs?" She paused, her hand on the elevator call button. "How did you?" "I know the owner. Let me make a call, put in a good word." "I don't want your help." But even as she said it, she thought about the bills piling up on her kitchen table, the daycare fees that seemed to increase every month, the interview that had gone poorly because she'd been distracted and worried about Amelia. "You saved my life," he said quietly. "At least let me return the favor. One phone call. That's all." The elevator doors opened and Amelia bounced out. "Mommy, the nice guard lady showed me the fish tank. There are fish that glow in the dark." Natasha looked down at her daughter's bright, eager face, then back at Jonathan. Pride warred with practicality. Amelia deserved stability, opportunities, a better life than constant worry about making ends meet. "One phone call," she said finally. "Nothing more." "Nothing more," he agreed. But as they rode the elevator down to the lobby, Natasha couldn't shake the feeling that she'd just opened a door that would be impossible to close again. That night, after Amelia had fallen asleep clutching her favorite stuffed elephant, Natasha sat at her small kitchen table staring at the business card Jonathan had given her 15 years ago. She'd kept it all this time, tucked away in her jewelry box like a relic of a different life. The card was worn at the edges, the gold lettering faded but still legible. Jonathan Reed, Harvard Business School, class of 2010. She remembered the day he'd gotten his acceptance letter, how they danced around her mother's living room, spinning with joy and possibility. She also remembered the day he'd told her he was leaving. "It's Harvard, Tasha," 18-year-old Jonathan had said, his hands cupping her face in the shade of their favorite oak tree. "Full scholarship. This could change everything for us." Us. She'd pressed closer to him, breathing in the scent of his cologne mixed with summer grass. "I'm not going to Harvard, Johnny. I'm staying here, going to community college, remember? You could transfer later. Once I get established, once I start making real money, I could help you." "And what am I supposed to do while you're becoming Mr. Big Shot?" Wait around for 4 years hoping you don't forget about me? He kissed her then, soft and desperate. I could never forget about you. You're everything to me. But he had forgotten. The letters had stopped after 6 months. The phone calls dwindled to nothing. She'd followed his success online from a distance, watching him transform from the boy who'd written her poetry into the man who'd revolutionized social media technology. She'd been 3 months pregnant when his last postcard arrived, a generic view of Harvard Yard with a brief note, "Hope you're doing well. Things are crazy here. Take care of yourself. Take care of yourself." As if she wasn't already carrying his child, dealing with morning sickness and her mother's disappointment and the crushing weight of facing single motherhood at 19. Her phone buzzed on the table, startling her out of the painful memories. The number was unfamiliar, but something made her answer. "Hello? Natasha? It's Jonathan." She should have hung up. Instead, she found herself gripping the phone tighter. "How did you get this number?" "From the business card you gave the detective. I hope you don't mind me calling." "What do you want?" "I spoke to Tom Harrison at Pacific Insurance. You have an interview with him tomorrow morning at 9. She blinked in surprise. "That's impossible. I already interviewed there. They said they'd chosen someone else." "They reconsidered?" "Apparently, there was a miscommunication about your qualifications." "Jonathan. It's a good position, Natasha. Claims coordinator, full benefits, room for advancement. You'd be perfect for it." Pride battled with pragmatism. The job would solve so many problems, give her the stability she'd been desperately seeking. But accepting it felt like admitting she needed him, and that was a door she wasn't ready to open. "I can't accept charity," she said finally. "It's not charity. Tom looked at your resume after I mentioned your name. You're overqualified if anything. Your work history, your recommendations, you earned this opportunity. Then why didn't I get it the first time?" Silence stretched across the phone line. "Because the world isn't always fair," he said quietly. "Sometimes good people need someone to open doors that should have been open all along." She thought about Amelia, asleep in the next room, dreaming of castles and princes. Her daughter deserved better than their current struggle, better than a mother who worked 3 part-time jobs just to keep the lights on. "One interview," she said. "If I get the job, it's because I'm qualified, not because of any favor to you." "Agreed." Another pause. Then his voice, softer now. "Natasha? Today when I met Amelia, she's incredible. You've done an amazing job raising her." The compliment hit her unexpectedly hard. She'd been doing it alone for so long, she'd forgotten what it felt like to have someone acknowledge the work, the sacrifice, the endless nights of worry and wonder. "She's my whole world," she whispered. "I can see that. She adores you. She has to. I'm all she's got." "Is she?" He hesitated, and she could hear him searching for the right words. "Natasha, is there something I should know? About the timing, I mean. She's 6 years old and I left 7 years ago, which means—" "Don't." Her voice was sharp. "Don't do the math, don't ask questions you're not ready to hear the answers to, and don't assume you have any rights here." "I'm not assuming anything. I'm asking. And I'm telling you it's none of your business." But even as she said the words, she could see Amelia's face in her mind. The same green eyes that were looking at her through the phone right now. The same stubborn chin, the same way of tilting her head when she was thinking hard about something. "She doesn't know," Natasha said finally. "And I'm not ready to tell her. But she is mine." It wasn't a question. Biology doesn't make you a father, Jonathan. Being there does. Showing up does. You've never done that. I didn't know. You never asked. The accusation hung between them like a wall. He could have found her if he'd wanted to. Could have called, could have come back, could have chosen differently at any point in the last 7 years. "I know," he said quietly. "I know I failed you. Failed both of you. But I'm here now. For how long? Until the next big opportunity comes along? Until something more important calls you away. I'm not going anywhere." "You said that before. I was 18 and stupid and scared. I thought I was doing the right thing, giving you space to build a life without being tied to someone who might not make it. So you made the choice for both of us." "Yes. And it was the biggest mistake of my life." Tears pricked her eyes, years of anger and hurt and loneliness rising to the surface. "Do you have any idea what it was like? Finding out I was pregnant a month after you stopped calling? Going through labor alone because my mother was working double shifts to pay the rent? Natasha, do you know what it's like to explain to your daughter why she doesn't have a daddy when all her friends do? To watch her make Father's Day cards for her grandfather because there's no one else?" "I'm sorry." His voice was raw. I'm so sorry. Sorry doesn't change anything. No, it doesn't. But maybe I can. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. What are you talking about? Let me be part of her life. Part of both your lives. I know I don't deserve it, but give me a chance to be the father she should have had from the beginning. She doesn't even know you exist. Then let me change that. Slowly, carefully, whatever way feels right to you. Natasha closed her eyes, feeling the weight of the decision crushing down on her. Amelia deserved to know her father, but she also deserved to be protected from the pain of abandonment. What if he left again? What if this was just guilt talking and he'd lose interest when the novelty wore off? I need time to think, she said. Of course. Take all the time you need. And Jonathan? If you hurt her, if you make promises you can't keep, I will never forgive you. I understand. After she hung up, Natasha sat in the quiet kitchen for a long time, staring at that faded business card. Tomorrow she'd have a real job interview, a chance at the kind of stability she'd been fighting for. But the cost of accepting it felt enormous. She'd spent 6 years building walls around her heart, protecting herself and Amelia from disappointment. Now Jonathan was back, asking her to tear those walls down and trust him with the two most precious things in her world: her daughter's future and her own carefully guarded heart. The question was whether she was brave enough to take that risk again. The Pacific Insurance building was nothing like Reed Industries' gleaming tower. The carpet was worn, the fluorescent lights hummed, and the coffee in the waiting room tasted like it had been brewing since the Clinton administration. But when Tom Harrison, a friendly man in his 50s, offered Natasha the claims coordinator position with full benefits and a salary that would change her life, she nearly cried with relief. "We're lucky to have you," he said, shaking her hand warmly. "Jonathan spoke very highly of your character, and your resume speaks for itself. Thank you for the opportunity." She meant it, even if accepting help from Jonathan felt like swallowing her pride. "Can you start Monday?" "Absolutely." Walking out of the building into the afternoon sunshine, Natasha felt lighter than she had in months. Real health insurance. Paid vacation days. A 401k. The kinds of things other people took for granted, but that felt like winning the lottery to a single mother who'd been living paycheck to paycheck for 6 years. Her phone rang as she reached her car. "How did it go?" Jonathan's voice was cautious, hopeful. "I got it." "That's wonderful, Natasha. Congratulations." "Thank you." The words came easier than she'd expected. "For the introduction, I mean. You were right, I earned it on my own merits, but the door opening helped. I'm glad I could help." Pause. "Then, there's something else I wanted to discuss with you. Would you be willing to meet for coffee? I know a place that's kid-friendly if you want to bring Amelia." Every instinct told her to say no. Coffee led to conversations, conversations led to connections, and connections led to the kind of vulnerability she'd sworn off after he'd left her pregnant and alone. But the job offer had softened something in her chest. Maybe she owed him this much. "There's a park on 5th Street with a cafe. Amelia likes the playground there." "I know the place. How about Saturday afternoon?" "Fine. 2 o'clock. Saturday arrived with unseasonably warm weather that had half the city outdoors. Natasha found Jonathan sitting at a table near the playground, 2 coffee cups and a hot chocolate waiting. He stood when he saw them approaching, and she noticed he dressed casually, jeans and a simple navy sweater that made him look more like the boy she'd once known. "Mr. Jonathan." Amelia ran toward him with a bright smile. "You came to the park too." "I did." He crouched down to her level. "I brought you hot chocolate. Is that okay? With marshmallows?" "Of course." Amelia beamed and climbed into the chair next to him, immediately reaching for the cup. Natasha sat across from them, studying Jonathan's face as he watched her daughter blow on the hot drink to cool it down. "So what did you want to discuss?" she asked, keeping her voice neutral. Jonathan glanced at Amelia, who was now distracted by a group of children on the swings. "I have a proposition for you. I already have a job thanks to you. This is different." He leaned forward, his expression serious. "I want to offer you a position at Reed Industries. Head of Community Outreach for our new Children's Education Initiative." Natasha blinked. "What?" "We're launching a program to provide technology and coding classes to underserved communities. I need someone to run it, someone who understands what these families really need." "Jonathan, I just accepted another job." "I know. And I'm asking you to consider something better. The salary would be triple what Pacific Insurance offered, plus stock options. Full executive benefits package." The numbers he mentioned made her head spin. That kind of money would mean Amelia could go to private school, have music lessons, take family vacations to places they'd only dreamed about. Why? She asked quietly. Because you'd be perfect for it. Because you understand struggle and perseverance in a way most people in my world don't. Because you saved my life and I want to do something meaningful with the time you gave me back. Mommy, can I go play on the swings? Amelia had finished half her hot chocolate and was eyeing the playground equipment with longing. Stay where I can see you, baby. They watched Amelia run toward the swings, her laughter carrying on the breeze as she pumped her legs to go higher. There's another reason, Jonathan said, his voice lower now. I want to be part of her life, Natasha. Part of both your lives. Working together would give us time to figure out how to do that. You want to buy your way back into our lives. No. His response was immediate and firm. I want to earn my way back. There's a difference. Is there? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're trying to solve everything with money. Money isn't everything, but it's not nothing either. You've been struggling for 6 years while I've been building an empire. Let me use some of that success to make your life easier. She wanted to say no. Wanted to tell him that she didn't need his help, that she and Amelia were doing just fine on their own. But the truth was more complicated. The truth was that she was tired of struggling, tired of choosing between groceries and gas money, tired of telling Amelia they couldn't afford things that other children took for granted. What would the job actually involve? Relief flashed across his features. Setting up partnerships with schools and community centers. Designing curriculum that makes technology accessible to kids who might not otherwise get exposure to it. Building programs that could genuinely change lives. It sounds like charity work dressed up as a corporate initiative. Maybe it is. Would that be so terrible? She considered this. What about my background check? I'm sure your HR department would find some reason to reject a single mother with no college degree. I own the company, Natasha. If I want to hire someone, they get hired. That's not how the real world works. It's how my world works. And I'm inviting you into it. Amelia's voice carried across the playground as she made friends with another little girl on the monkey bars. Watching her daughter's easy confidence, her natural ability to connect with others, Natasha felt a familiar ache. Amelia was everything good about both of them, the best of what they might have been together. I need guarantees, she said finally. Name them. If I take this job, it can't be dependent on whatever personal relationship we do or don't develop. I want a real contract, real job security based on my performance. Done. And if things don't work out between us personally, you don't get to fire me or make my work life miserable. Natasha, I would never. Promise me. I promise. Ever been faced with an impossible choice between pride and practicality? Natasha's decision could change everything for her and Amelia, but can she trust the man who once broke her heart? What would you do in her situation? Let me know in the comments and don't forget to subscribe to see how this story unfolds. There's one more condition, she said. Amelia doesn't find out about our past until I decide she's ready. If you're going to be around, you're just mommy's boss who happens to be nice to her. Nothing more until I say otherwise. Pain flickered across his face. How long? I don't know. Maybe weeks, maybe months. Maybe longer. She's my priority, Jonathan. Her emotional well-being comes before everything else, including your need to be her father. I understand. Do you? Because being a parent isn't about biology or good intentions. It's about showing up every single day, even when it's hard, even when it's boring, even when she's sick or cranky or testing your patience. I want to learn. I want to try. Trying isn't enough. She needs consistency, reliability, someone she can count on absolutely. Then give me the chance to be that person. Amelia ran back to their table, cheeks flushed from playing. Mommy, the little girl over there has the same elephant as mine. Her name is Sophie and she's 5. That's nice, baby. Are you ready to go home? Can Mr. Jonathan come with us? I want to show him my room. Natasha's throat tightened. Mr. Jonathan is very busy, sweetheart. Actually, Jonathan said carefully, I'd love to see your room sometime. Maybe next weekend if it's okay with your mom. Amelia clapped her hands together. Yes. You can meet Elephant and see my books and my drawings. I'd like that very much. As they walked back to their cars, Amelia skipping ahead, Jonathan fell into step beside Natasha. So is that a yes to the job? She thought about the insurance company position, safe and predictable and completely separate from the complicated man walking beside her. Then she thought about Amelia's future, about the opportunities that kind of money could provide, about the chance to actually help other families facing the same struggles she'd known. I'll need to see the actual job description and contract before I decide. Of course. And I want to give Pacific Insurance proper notice. 2 weeks. Whatever you need. They reached her car and Amelia climbed into her booster seat, chattering about her new friend Sophie and the swings that went really, really high. Natasha, Jonathan said as she opened her door. Thank you. For considering this, for giving me a chance. Don't thank me yet, she said. This could be the biggest mistake either of us ever makes. Or it could be the best decision. As they drove home, Amelia's voice from the back seat was thoughtful. Mommy, do you like Mr. Jonathan? The question caught her off guard. He seems like a nice man. Why? He looks at you the way Prince Eric looks at Princess Ariel in the movie. Like you're the most beautiful thing he ever saw. Natasha's hands tightened on the steering wheel. That's just your imagination, baby. Maybe, Amelia said. But I think Mr. Jonathan likes us a lot. Looking in the rearview mirror at her daughter's knowing smile, Natasha wondered if 6-year-olds were more perceptive than adults gave them credit for. And whether that was a good thing or a dangerous one. 2 weeks later, Natasha stood in the elevator of Reed Industries, wearing her new navy blazer and carrying a leather briefcase that still smelled like the department store. Her first day as head of community outreach felt surreal, like stepping into someone else's life. The 38th floor housed the executive offices, a world of glass and steel and quiet efficiency. Her office was corner suite with windows overlooking the city park where she'd taken Amelia just yesterday. Ms. Williams? A young woman with a bright smile appeared in her doorway. I'm Rebecca Chen, your assistant. Mr. Reed asked me to help you get settled. Thank you. I have to admit, I'm not sure where to start. He left you this. Rebecca handed her a thick folder marked Children's Education Initiative. And he said to tell you that if you need anything at all, just call. The folder contained detailed proposals, budget projections and partnership agreements with 12 different community centers across the city. The scope was breathtaking and the funding generous enough to actually make a difference. Natasha spent the morning reviewing files and making notes. Around noon there was a soft knock on her door. Come in. Jonathan appeared, looking every inch the successful CEO in his charcoal suit. How's your first day going? Overwhelming in the best possible way. This program could actually help thousands of kids. That's the idea. He stepped into her office, hands in his pockets. I was wondering if you'd like to grab lunch. There's a place downstairs with decent salads, and we could discuss the implementation timeline. I usually eat at my desk. Natasha, you're an executive now. Executives take lunch breaks. The cafe on the building's ground floor was busy with the lunch crowd, but Jonathan led them to a quiet table in the corner. As they settled in with their food, Natasha couldn't help but notice how other diners glanced their way, recognizing him. Does it ever feel strange? She asked. Being recognized everywhere you go? You get used to it. Though I have to admit, I prefer smaller places where I can just be myself. And who is that? The real Jonathan Reed, I mean. He considered the question seriously. Honestly? I'm not sure anymore. I've been playing the role of successful entrepreneur for so long, sometimes I forget what's underneath. What do you remember? I remember a kid who wanted to change the world. Who believed technology could solve every problem and make life better for everyone. That's not so different from what you're doing now. Isn't it? Sometimes I think I've just become another rich guy salving his conscience with charity work. The honesty surprised her. Is that what this is? Conscience salving? Maybe partly. But mostly it's about trying to be the man I should have been 7 years ago. Their conversation was interrupted by a text message on Natasha's phone. The daycare center, asking her to pick up Amelia early because she had a mild fever. I have to go, she said, already standing. Amelia's sick. Of course. Take the rest of the day. I can't just leave on my first day. Yes, you can. Being a mother comes first, always. An hour later, Natasha was at home with Amelia curled up on the couch, running a low-grade fever and feeling sorry for herself. They were halfway through a Disney movie when someone knocked on their apartment door. Are you expecting anyone? Jonathan's voice came through the intercom. Surprised, Natasha buzzed him up. He appeared at her door carrying a pharmacy bag and a container of soup from the deli down the street. I brought chicken soup and children's medicine, he said. And ice cream for when she feels better. You didn't have to do this. I wanted to. Amelia perked up from the couch. Mr. Jonathan. I'm sick today. I heard. That's no fun at all. He sat on the coffee table facing her, his expression gentle. My mom used to make me special tea when I was sick. Want me to show you how? 20 minutes later, the three of them were sitting together on Natasha's small couch, Amelia between them sipping honey tea and watching cartoons. The scene felt dangerously domestic, too much like the family she'd once dreamed they'd be. "This is nice," Amelia said drowsily, leaning against Jonathan's arm. "Like having a daddy who comes home from work to take care of me." Natasha's breath caught. Jonathan's hand stilled where he'd been stroking Amelia's hair. "Sweetie," Natasha said carefully, "Mr. Jonathan is just being kind because you're not feeling well." "I know. But it's still nice." When Amelia fell asleep between them, Natasha started to move her to the bedroom, but Jonathan gestured for her to stay put. "Let her rest. She seems comfortable." They sat in the quiet living room, Amelia's small body warm against both of them, the afternoon light streaming through the windows. It was the most peaceful Natasha had felt in years. "She's so trusting," Jonathan said softly. "She just accepts kindness without question. She's never had reason not to. The people in her life have always shown up for her." The implied criticism hung in the air. "Except for me. You weren't here to show up. But I should have been." Natasha looked down at their daughter, her dark curls spilling across Jonathan's arm, her face relaxed in sleep. "Sometimes I used to imagine what it would be like if you came back. If you met her, if you wanted to be part of our lives." "What did you imagine?" "That it would be complicated and messy and probably painful for everyone involved." "And now?" "It's all of those things. But also—" She hesitated. "Also what?" "Also better than I thought it would be. She likes you. More than likes you. And that scares me." "Why?" "Because she's never been disappointed by someone she cares about. I've made sure of that. If you hurt her—" "I won't." "You can't promise that. Life happens, Jonathan. People change their minds, priorities shift. What if you decide being a father is harder than you thought? What if you meet someone who doesn't want the complication of a ready-made family? That's not going to happen. How can you be so sure?" He was quiet for a long moment, watching Amelia sleep. "Because I've spent 7 years building a life that looked successful from the outside but felt empty inside. Because I've dated women who wanted me for my money or my connections but never really knew me. Because coming home to this, to the two of you, feels like coming home to myself." The words hit her in a place she'd thought was safely walled off. "Jonathan. I know I don't deserve a second chance. I know I have to earn your trust and hers. But I'm not going anywhere, Natasha. Not this time." Amelia stirred in her sleep, mumbling something about elephants and ice cream. Jonathan's hand resumed its gentle stroking of her hair, and Natasha saw something in his face that made her chest tight. He looked like a father. Like someone who'd been waiting his whole life for this moment without even knowing it. "She doesn't know," Natasha whispered. "About you being her father." "I know. Are you okay with that? With just being Mr. Jonathan for now?" "I'm okay with being whatever she needs me to be." "And what about what you need?" "I need to be in her life. In whatever way you'll allow." The afternoon sun was starting to fade when Amelia woke up, her fever broken and her spirits improved. Jonathan stayed for dinner, helping Amelia with a puzzle while Natasha cooked, the three of them moving around each other in the small space like they'd been doing it for years. After he left, Amelia sat on her bed while Natasha brushed her hair before bedtime. "Mommy, why don't I have a daddy like the other kids at school?" The question came out of nowhere, hitting Natasha like a physical blow. "What do you mean, baby?" "Sophie at the park said her daddy reads her stories and teaches her to ride bikes and comes to her school plays. I wish I had a daddy like that." Natasha's throat felt tight. "You have Grandpa who loves you very much." "I know. But it's not the same." Amelia turned to face her, those green eyes so much like Jonathan's. "Do you think my daddy would like me if he met me?" "Oh, sweetheart." Natasha pulled her daughter into her arms. "Any daddy would be lucky to have you. Then why doesn't he want to see me?" The innocent question broke something open in Natasha's chest. How do you explain to a 6-year-old that her father didn't know she existed? How do you balance honesty with protecting her from painful truths? "Sometimes grown-up situations are complicated," she said finally. "But that doesn't mean you're not lovable or wanted." "Maybe someday I'll find him," Amelia said, snuggling close. "Or maybe he'll find me." As Natasha tucked her daughter into bed, she couldn't stop thinking about Jonathan's hand in Amelia's hair, the way he'd looked at their daughter like she was the most precious thing in the world. Maybe someday had already arrived. The question was whether she was brave enough to let it unfold. The Reed Industries annual company picnic was held in the sprawling gardens of Jonathan's estate, a fact that surprised Natasha when she saw the address on the invitation. She'd expected a public park or rented venue, not his actual home. This is where Mr. Jonathan lives? Amelia asked, pressing her face against the car window as they drove through the iron gates. The house beyond was impressive but not ostentatious, a large colonial-style home surrounded by mature oak trees and carefully tended gardens. Apparently so. It's like a palace, but with trees. Employees and their families were scattered across the lawn, children running between picnic tables while adults mingled near a barbecue station. Jonathan spotted them immediately and walked over, casual in jeans and a polo shirt that made him look younger. "You made it," he said, his smile warm. "Amelia, there's a bounce house set up behind the pool and I think I saw some kids your age over there. Can I go, Mommy? Stay where I can see you and come back if you need anything." They watched Amelia run toward the group of children, her laughter already mixing with theirs. "Your home is beautiful," Natasha said, meaning it. "Thank you. I bought it hoping to fill it with family someday." His eyes followed Amelia's progress across the lawn. "Turns out I just needed to look in the right place." The afternoon passed pleasantly. Natasha met other employees, impressed by how many of them spoke of Jonathan with genuine affection rather than just professional respect. He moved easily between groups, remembering children's names and asking about families, clearly comfortable in this less formal setting. "Uncle Jonathan, come push me on the swing." A little girl with pigtails tugged at his hand. "Uncle Jonathan?" Natasha raised an eyebrow. "Rebecca's daughter. I'm honorary uncle to about half the kids here." She watched him lift the child onto the swing, pushing her gently while she giggled and demanded to go higher. The sight stirred something in her chest, a recognition of the father he could have been, might still become. "Mommy, look." Amelia appeared at her side, breathless and excited. "Mr. Jonathan has a tree house." "Does he now? Can we see it, please?" Jonathan overheard and walked over, leaving Rebecca's daughter with her parents. "It's not much of a tree house. More like a platform with railings. But you're welcome to climb up." The oak tree was ancient and sturdy, with a wooden ladder leading to a simple platform about 12 feet up. Amelia scrambled up without hesitation, Jonathan following to make sure she was safe. "Wow, you can see everything from up here," Amelia called down. "Come up, Mommy." Natasha climbed the ladder, emerging onto the platform to find Amelia and Jonathan sitting with their legs dangling over the edge. The view stretched across the gardens and beyond to the city skyline. "I built this when I first bought the house," Jonathan said. "Seemed like the kind of thing a family home should have." "Even though you didn't have a family?" "Especially because I didn't have a family. I guess I was building it in hope." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the picnic continue below them. Other children had discovered the tree house and were climbing up, turning the platform into a small observation deck. "Mr. Jonathan," Amelia said thoughtfully, "how come you don't have kids of your own?" The question hung in the air like a challenge. Natasha felt her breath catch, waiting for his response. "That's a good question," he said carefully. "I guess I never found the right person to have kids with." "What about now? Are you looking for someone?" "Amelia," Natasha warned gently. "It's okay," Jonathan said. "Actually, Amelia, I think I might have already found the right people. I just have to convince them to let me be part of their family." Something in his tone made Amelia look at him more carefully. "Are you talking about me and Mommy?" Natasha's heart stopped. "Amelia? Because I think that would be really nice. Mommy gets lonely sometimes even though she tries to hide it. And I always wanted a daddy." "Sweetheart," Natasha said, her voice strained. "Adult relationships are complicated. But you like each other, right? I can tell." Jonathan looked at Natasha, something unspoken passing between them. "Your mommy and I have known each other for a very long time." "How long?" "Since we were in high school together." Amelia's eyes widened. "Really? Were you friends?" "We were more than friends," Jonathan said softly, never taking his eyes off Natasha. "We were very much in love." "What happened?" "I made a mistake. I left when I should have stayed." "But you're back now." "Yes, I'm back now." Amelia looked between them with the clear-eyed assessment that children sometimes possess. "Mommy, do you still love Mr. Jonathan?" The question hit Natasha like a physical blow. Around them, other children chattered and played, unaware of the moment unfolding on the tree platform. "That's complicated, baby." "Love isn't complicated," Amelia said with 6-year-old certainty. "Either you do or you don't. Sometimes people can love each other but still not be able to be together." "Why not?" "Because..." Natasha struggled for words that would make sense to a child. "Because sometimes people hurt each other even when they don't mean to." And it takes time to learn to trust again. Do you trust Mr. Jonathan now? Natasha looked at Jonathan, seeing the hope and fear in his green eyes. I'm learning to. Good, Amelia said with satisfaction. Because I think he'd make a really good daddy. The words hung in the summer air like a promise or a prayer. Jonathan's hand moved slightly on the platform, and Natasha realized he was reaching for hers. Their fingers touched, tentative at first, then intertwining. Amelia, Jonathan said carefully, what would you think if I told you that I cared about you and your mommy very much? And that I wanted to be part of your family? I'd think that was the best thing ever. Even if it meant big changes? Good changes or bad changes? Good changes, I hope. But changes that might feel scary at first. Amelia considered this seriously. Like when we moved to our new apartment and I was scared at first but then I loved my new room? Exactly like that. Then I think it would be okay. As long as you promise not to leave again. Jonathan's voice was thick with emotion. I promise I'll never leave again. Do you pinky promise? He held out his pinky and Amelia linked hers with his. Pinky promise. As they climbed down from the treehouse, Amelia ran ahead to rejoin the other children. Natasha and Jonathan walked slowly behind her, hands still linked. She doesn't know, Natasha said quietly. About you being her biological father. I know. When will you tell her? I don't know. Soon maybe. She's asking more questions about fathers lately. How do you think she'll react? I think she'll be happy. Maybe confused at first, but happy. They reached the main lawn where the picnic was winding down. Families were gathering their things, children protesting that they didn't want to leave yet. Natasha, Jonathan said, stopping her with a gentle touch on her arm. Today, up in the treehouse, when Amelia asked if you still love me? Jonathan. I know you said it's complicated. But I need you to know that I never stopped loving you. Not for a single day in 7 years. How can you say that? You disappeared completely. Because I thought you deserved better. Because I was a coward who convinced himself that walking away was noble instead of what it really was. Which was what? The biggest mistake of my life. Amelia ran up to them, grass stains on her dress and joy on her face. This was the best day ever. Can we come back sometime? Any time you want, Jonathan said, looking at Natasha as he spoke. You're always welcome here. As they drove home, Amelia chattered about the treehouse and the bounce house and her new friends. But Natasha's mind was on Jonathan's words, on the feel of his hand in hers, on the way he'd looked at their daughter like she was the most precious thing in the world. Maybe it was time to stop protecting herself from the possibility of happiness. Maybe it was time to tell Amelia the truth about her father. Maybe it was time to let herself believe that second chances were possible. But first, she needed to be sure that Jonathan was ready for the reality of being a father, not just the romance of the idea. Because once Amelia knew the truth, there would be no going back for any of them. The conversation Natasha had been dreading happened on a Tuesday evening while she was making dinner. Amelia sat at the kitchen table doing homework, her tongue poking out slightly as she concentrated on her math problems. Mommy, Jessica at school said her parents are getting divorced because her daddy fell in love with someone else. Natasha's hand stilled on the pasta spoon. That must be very sad for Jessica. She said sometimes daddies leave and never come back. Is that what happened to my daddy? The moment had arrived, ready or not. Natasha turned off the stove and sat down across from her daughter. No, sweetheart. That's not what happened. Then where is he? Natasha took a deep breath. Your daddy didn't know about you when you were born. He moved away before I found out I was pregnant. Amelia looked up from her worksheet, her green eyes serious. So he doesn't know I exist? He didn't know. But he does now. How does he know now? Because he came back to the city and we met again. Understanding dawned slowly across Amelia's face. Is my daddy someone I know? Yes, baby. You know him. Is it Mr. Jonathan? The question was asked with such quiet certainty that Natasha knew her daughter had already figured it out. Children were more perceptive than adults often realized. Yes, Mr. Jonathan is your daddy. Amelia was quiet for a long moment, processing this information. Is that why he's been spending time with us? Because you told him about me? Partly. But also because he cares about you very much. Does he want to be my daddy? Like for real? He does. Very much. Good, Amelia said matter-of-factly. I like him. He makes you smile more. Is that all? You're not angry or confused. Should I be? I don't know. How do you feel? Amelia set down her pencil and looked at her mother seriously. I feel happy. And maybe a little sad that he missed my birthday parties and learning to ride a bike. But mostly happy. Relief washed over Natasha. We can tell him, if you want to. Or we can wait until you're ready. Can we tell him now? Tonight. Tonight. He's coming over for dinner, right? You said he was. Natasha had indeed invited Jonathan for dinner, thinking it would be a good opportunity to have this conversation in a safe, familiar environment. Are you sure you're ready? I'm sure. Jonathan arrived an hour later carrying flowers for Natasha and a book about astronomy for Amelia. They ate dinner together at the small kitchen table, the conversation flowing easily between work updates and Amelia's school stories. After dinner, while Jonathan helped with dishes, Amelia tugged on his sleeve. Mr. Jonathan? I have something to tell you. What's that? Mommy told me you're my daddy. Jonathan's hands stilled in the soapy water. He looked over at Natasha, who nodded encouragingly. How do you feel about that? He asked, crouching down to Amelia's level. Happy. But I have some questions. Ask me anything. Why didn't you come looking for us sooner? The question was direct, honest, deserving of an equally honest answer. Because I didn't know you existed until a few weeks ago. If I had known, I would have been here from the very beginning. Do you wish you had known? More than anything in the world. Are you going to live with us now? Jonathan glanced at Natasha. That's something your mommy and I need to talk about. But you want to? I want whatever makes you and your mommy happiest. Amelia considered this. I think living together would make us happy. Don't you think so, Mommy? The question hung in the air between them. Natasha looked at Jonathan, seeing the hope in his eyes tempered by patience. He wasn't pushing, wasn't demanding. He was waiting for her to decide what was right for their family. I think, Natasha said carefully, that we should take things slowly. Get to know each other as a family before we make big changes. Like dating? Amelia asked. Like dating, Natasha agreed. But daddy dating, not just friend dating. Jonathan laughed. Is there a difference? Daddy dating means you get to kiss mommy goodnight. Heat rose in Natasha's cheeks. Amelia? What? Sophie's daddy kisses her mommy goodnight every night. It's romantic. From the mouth of babes, Jonathan murmured, his eyes twinkling. After Amelia's bath and bedtime story, Natasha and Jonathan sat on her small balcony sharing a bottle of wine and watching the city lights twinkle below. That went better than I expected, Natasha said. She's remarkable. So mature for her age. She's had to be. It's been just the two of us for so long. Natasha, about what she said earlier about living together? I know what you're thinking, but I meant what I said about taking things slowly. I'm not talking about rushing into anything. I'm talking about the fact that I own a 4-bedroom house with a yard and you're paying rent on a 1-bedroom apartment. We're fine where we are. Are you? Or are you being stubborn because accepting help feels like admitting you need me? The accusation stung because it contained truth. Maybe both. There's no shame in accepting help, especially when it benefits Amelia. And what happens when this doesn't work out? When you realize that being a father is harder than you thought? Do we end up homeless as well as heartbroken? That's not going to happen. You can't know that. No, but I can promise to try my best. And I can put legal protections in place so that even if something happens to me, you and Amelia are provided for. The practical consideration surprised her. You do that? I'd do anything for her. For both of you. They sat in comfortable silence, the evening air warm around them. Finally, Natasha spoke. I'm scared, Jonathan. Of what? Of believing in this. Of letting myself trust that you're really here to stay. Of letting Amelia get attached and then having you disappear again. I can't undo the past. I can't give you back the 7 years I missed or take away the hurt I caused. But I can promise you that I'm not going anywhere. How can you be so sure? Because leaving you the first time nearly destroyed me. Because I've spent 7 years building a successful life that felt completely empty. Because coming home to you and Amelia feels like coming home to myself. What if it's not enough? What if we can't make this work? Then we'll figure it out together. But I'm not giving up without trying. Natasha looked out at the city lights, thinking about Amelia asleep in her bed, dreaming of castles and princes and families that stayed together. Her daughter deserved the chance to have a father who loved her, and Jonathan deserved the chance to be that father. Maybe more importantly, she deserved the chance to be happy again. Okay, she said quietly. Okay. We can try. Slowly, carefully, but we can try. The smile that spread across his face was like sunrise. Really? Really? But I have conditions. Name them. We tell Amelia that we're dating, that we're figuring out how to be a family together. No promises about marriage or moving in together until we're sure this is going to work. Agreed. And you have to understand that she comes first, always. If this relationship becomes harmful to her in any way, it won't. And if it did, I'd be the first one to step back. One more thing. I want to take a weekend trip, just the three of us. Somewhere neutral where we can see how we function as a family without the pressure of our usual routines. I know the perfect place. 6 months later, Natasha stood in the bridal suite of the Grand Hotel, the same venue where the charity gala had taken place. But tonight, instead of a black catering uniform, she wore an ivory silk dress that made her feel like a princess. The past 6 months had been a journey of rediscovery. Weekend trips to the mountains where Jonathan taught Amelia to fish and Natasha remembered why she'd fallen in love with him in the first place. Family dinners where they learned each other's rhythms, movie nights where Amelia fell asleep between them on the couch, school events where Jonathan cheered louder than any other parent when Amelia won the spelling bee. There had been challenges too. Moments when old fears resurfaced, when Natasha caught herself waiting for him to leave. Times when Jonathan struggled with the day-to-day realities of parenting, when Amelia tested boundaries or had nightmares or simply needed more attention than he knew how to give. But they'd worked through each obstacle together, building trust one day at a time. The proposal had come during the annual charity gala, exactly where they'd first reconnected. Jonathan had arranged for Amelia to present the donation check to the Children's Hope Foundation, and when she'd finished her little speech, she'd handed her mother a microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen," 7-year-old Amelia had announced to the surprised crowd, "My daddy has something important to ask my mommy." Jonathan had dropped to one knee right there on the ballroom floor, in front of 500 witnesses, and asked Natasha to marry him. The ring was perfect, a simple solitaire that caught the light from the same chandelier that had witnessed their reunion. "You saved my life that night," he'd said, his voice carrying across the silent ballroom. "Let me spend the rest of mine showing you how grateful I am." She'd said yes through tears, and the entire gala had erupted in applause. Now, 6 months later, she was preparing to walk down the aisle of the hotel's garden terrace, where white roses and baby's breath created an arch overlooking the city. "You look beautiful, Mommy." Amelia appeared in the doorway wearing a pale pink dress with a full skirt that she'd insisted on spinning in at least 12 times since getting dressed. "Thank you, baby. Are you ready to be my maid of honor?" "I've been ready forever." Amelia bounced on her toes. "Is it time yet?" "Almost." "Are you nervous?" "No. Are you?" Natasha considered the question. "A little. But good nervous." "Like Christmas morning nervous?" "Exactly like Christmas morning nervous." There was a soft knock on the door, and Rebecca appeared with a bouquet of white roses and peonies. "It's time." The garden was filled with their closest friends and family. Jonathan's parents, who'd flown in from Seattle and immediately fallen in love with their granddaughter. Natasha's mother, crying happy tears in the front row. Colleagues from Reed Industries, daycare teachers, neighbors who'd become friends. But as Natasha walked down the petal-strewn aisle with Amelia beside her, she only had eyes for Jonathan. He stood at the altar in a navy suit, his face reflecting the same wonder she felt at how completely their lives had transformed. Have you ever believed that second chances don't exist? That some mistakes are too big to forgive? Natasha and Jonathan's story proves that sometimes the greatest love stories begin with the courage to try again. What do you think about their journey? Share your thoughts in the comments below and subscribe to see more heartwarming stories like this one. The ceremony was simple and heartfelt. They'd written their own vows, promising to build their future on the foundation of their shared past, to love and support each other through whatever challenges lay ahead. When the minister asked if anyone objected to the union, Amelia raised her hand. "I object to waiting any longer," she announced loudly. "Can they kiss now?" Laughter rippled through the crowd and the minister smiled. "I think we can arrange that." Jonathan's kiss was tender and full of promise, a seal on their commitment to build the family they'd always been meant to be. At the reception, Amelia gave a speech that brought the entire room to tears. "When I was little, I used to wish for a daddy," she said into the microphone, completely unafraid of the crowd. "But I didn't know I was supposed to wish for the right daddy. The one who would love my mommy the way she deserves and teach me how to climb trees and read me stories with all the voices. I'm glad mommy and daddy found each other again even though it took them a while. Good things are worth waiting for." As the evening wound down and guests began to leave, the three of them stood on the terrace overlooking the city. Amelia had fallen asleep in Jonathan's arms, her pink dress wrinkled and her flower crown askew. "So," Natasha said, leaning against her new husband's shoulder, What happens now? Now we go home. To our house with our daughter and start our life together. Our house. Did I forget to mention? I had your things moved while we were at the ceremony. Surprise. She laughed, too happy to be annoyed. You're terrible. You love me anyway. I do love you. Despite all logic and self-preservation instincts. Good thing. Because I plan to spend the rest of my life proving that some risks are worth taking. As they drove through the city toward their new home, Amelia stirring sleepily in the back seat, Natasha thought about the journey that had brought them here. From that terrifying night at the gala when she'd acted on pure instinct to save a stranger's life, to this moment when that same stranger had become her husband and the father of her child. Sometimes guardian angels came in unexpected packages. Sometimes second chances arrived when you least expected them but most needed them. And sometimes, if you were very lucky, love really could conquer all. Are we home yet? Amelia mumbled from the back seat. Almost, sweetheart, Jonathan said, reaching back to squeeze her hand. Good. I can't wait to see my new room again. Your new room in your new house with your new family, Natasha added. Not new family, Amelia corrected sleepily. We were always a family. We just didn't all know it yet. As they pulled into the driveway of the house that would shelter their dreams and witness their love story unfold, Natasha realized that her 7-year-old daughter was the wisest person she knew. They had always been a family. They just hadn't all known it yet. But they knew it now, and that made all the difference in the world.